This is going to be an infomercial for the Chav, the cheap hacky AV synthesizer, the new version 3.0 for 2021, and the VGA4EVA, which is a totally new DIY project, completely new. And, as always, cheap and hacky means that, both of these things, little rough around the edges, but they can each be built for roughly $25, which that's not too bad. And AV meaning audio and video. You can make both things, audio and video. So before I get into any of that, I'm going to give you a little history. I'll give you a little Chav history. I'm going to put these away, and then I'll bring you to them in the timeline for everything. So back in 2016, I made a tutorial for how to turn one of these things. This is a pretty cheap VGA test signal generator. How to turn one of these things into a audio-visual synthesizer. And the idea was that you solder some wires to the red, green, and blue pins on one of these things, and then you can send in whatever signals you want from a synthesizer or audio or whatever you have into here, and then it will turn it into video and come out of the jack and onto a display. And then also using the horizontal and vertical sync pins, which are needed to even turn the monitor on, to sync oscillators. So this stuff could be used right in a little modular synthesizer environment, or anything else that can use synchronization. And that led to a lot of stuff. It led to something like this, these kinds of things. This was the first proper project that was built around all of this. My tutorial talked about taking one of these things and building a little CMOS oscillator to it that used the sync. But then Luis Gonzalez made this PCB that sort of did all that stuff. It took all the things from the tutorial and put them all onto this board, which was pretty awesome. These were made open source and still are. You can still find these, open source right there. If you want to make the original, which was a super generous thing to do. The idea is that we got a 4106 oscillator down here, the classic 4106 hex Schmidt trigger oscillator, which makes square waves, and those can be patched like this, mini modular synth into red, green, and blue, and then synced also from the sync. So you got like this crazy little audio-visual synthesizer based on the VGA signal generator. And I went around and taught workshops with this for a little while, and it was crazy. The people back in the day did all this wiring to get jacks on there to get the signals in and out, either to listen to the oscillators on here in the video or patching things in. These were used, and it was all like super glue and crazy wiring and stuff. People that had never picked up a soldering iron before did this, which was wild and really inspiring to me also, to not only get this stuff out there for people that didn't have a lot of money and wanted to make stuff, but also looking at the capacity of all the stuff for teaching. I started to see like the educational benefit of all that, and then this whole project to me turned into something that I wanted to make cheap and inexpensive, but also something that could be a platform for learning all this stuff. And after that, here we're going down memory lane. Here, let me get out all the chavs. Here we go. Oof, history of chav right here. Boom. There's probably more too, but this is just what I could dig out. So Luis and I collaborated on this second one. This was the second one, the little VGA sync generator. Popped on right there, and you had to wire it up still. But this one had onboard jacks and some other, improvements on the circuit. And a lot of people made this one too. That was pretty cool. Along the way, I was doing all sorts of other stuff too, like this. I made a prototype Eurorack thing. A lot of people have asked, like, "Oh, where's the Eurorack chav?" There was one once upon a time. There was also this other thing. This was the prototype Euro chav, which actually, this one, this is a working prototype. it works. There was an oscillator that went along with that, and then I started making like these, prototype hex Schmidt trigger oscillators for Eurorack format. This was an expander that used the same kind of VCOs, these funky back trolls, and could even be used with a LDR and LED combination, whatever you would want to do for frequency modulation, which was pretty amusing. And then I ended up making my own version of this 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter board, these little square project boards, and even reverse engineering the VGA sync generator. One of the issues, and I'll get into that a little bit later, is these signal generators, these VGA sync generators. Where did I throw it? I don't know, whatever. Here's one right here. These things can be a pain to source. And I got really fed up with them at one point. Well, I'll just get into it right now. I got really fed up with AliExpress one time because I ordered a bunch of these and they didn't show up. So I forgave it. And then they did it again. I ordered a bunch again and they never showed up. And it was infuriating. And I've heard from other people too, all sorts of ordering horror stories where they order these things and either they send the wrong ones or, it takes forever or whatever. So that was, that's a kind of a drawback of using these things. They are inexpensive and they work. Everything's here. You got all the parts that you need and stuff, but ordering can be unpleasant sometimes with those things. So, I've made a few different versions of those. There's some more. What else is in here? Yeah, there's that thing. Another version of that. All sorts of wild stuff. There's somewhere in here is a really this is it. Yeah, this was a really fancy one. That has input, buffered input and output and some other things. And ultimately I decided that this was no longer cheap and hacky. It was like, expensive and, properly built, and I still wasn't that thrilled with it. And I wanted to keep it simple and inexpensive and fun. And this was, getting a little too overboard. Anyway, I'm going to get rid of this stuff for now. And that sort of brings us anyway to the present, what I wanted to talk to you about. This thing. This is VGA4EVA. And this is here's one of my many jokes here. VGA4EVA. EVA is or EVA, probably her name would be pronounced. EVA is the useless customer service bot on AliExpress that tells you, oh, don't worry. Your VGA test signal generators are coming. Don't worry, we value your order. I had many conversations with this bot, and then until before I decided to reverse engineer the signal generator. So this is VGA4EVA. There you go. You got it. That's what you asked for it. You got it. So this thing, in effect, replaces this. This guy makes the VGA signal that you need to even turn the monitor on. With a little microcontroller. And I decided to just replace that with Arduino. So, this is like an Atmega 328, which is, the same chip that's used in an Arduino. And there, for a long time, I thought about doing this. The issue was, all right, VGA test signal generator versus Arduino. This thing is like cheap, simple, it's got a built-in jack, everything that you need is right here to generate a video signal. It's pre-programmed, no problem. This thing was like 5 times more expensive. It doesn't have any of the stuff that you need. It needs to be programmed. So, there's an issue. Things have changed though since the era of this. And what's changed is these are now super cheap. There are clones everywhere. And the place that I recommend people buy parts, Tata, all the stuff, all these other parts, they now stock Arduino Unos for $5. They have clones for $5. It's so cheap. So you can program the chip by connecting this through USB to a computer and just copying and pasting the code in. It could not be easier, even for someone like me that hates computers. It's super easy. And there are all sorts of great things that come along with that, like you can customize the code, like you can change things around. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. It might be too early for that. So, all in all, parts cost for this build is like between $12 and $13. And Tata is so cool. They started stocking these VGA jacks. They didn't have them. I wrote them an email and asked them to stock this. And then they stocked it. I love them. It's so cool. They got these and they got this. Everything you can get from them. It's Very, very nice. All right, enough talk. Let's look at it. Let's look at what it does. So in effect, it replaces the VGA test signal generator by generating its own vertical and horizontal sync. We'll plug it in there. We got 12 volts DC, and then it should pop up. There we go. We got a white background here, which is already different. You know, those of you that have made chav-based synths out of these things. Oh, you know what? I should say too, I'm going to brag for a second. You know, this was my original, documentation that I used when I was teaching workshops, you know, like showing people how to wire, connect wires into the VGA test signal generators. And this ended up in Handmade Electronic Music, which was one of my favorite books, Nick Collins' book. This was a huge influence on me when I was first starting out. I loved this book and read it from cover to cover. And now, good old Chav is right in there, which I'm very, if you couldn't tell, very proud of. So before I was saying like Chav-based synth, there are all sorts of things out there that are like Chav-based, meaning this. And I guess in a way, I'm sort of moving beyond that with this thing. I feel like this is, in a lot of ways, a better solution. So here's one way right away. You can tell right off the bat. When these things started up before, you would have color bars. And you could, toggle between some different patterns by hitting the button, but it was closed. That's all you got. What it gave you was what you got here. And with this, it can be whatever you want. It's pretty easy to program this thing. And I got some examples that I'm going to make available for everyone. This is super useful, having white here. The red, green, and blue pins from the Atmega are going through some attenuators here. We got red, green, and blue attenuators. And what is nice about this is that you can continuously control the background. It's not like a static thing where you switch from one thing to another thing. In order to control the background colors, you can use these attenuators. So fading down red gives us cyan. Bring this back up, fade down green. We get magenta, bring that up, fade down blue. We got yellow, or any combination. And it's one of those things that's just, instantly satisfying. It responds, this analog control. We got the blue screen of death, blah. Or good old green screen, or red, or any combination. We can make orange. Ooh, there's a nice orange, or anywhere in between. Or off, all three of them down is black, and then we can just display our oscillators on flat black. So this by itself can be useful. This could be built as a standalone project to visualize some Eurorack oscillators. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to turn down my blue and green and bring down the red a little bit. And then I'm going to short one of these pins. I'm going to short red to red over here. So now this jack will act as a red input. And I'm going to patch in a Eurorack oscillator. I got a Eurorack VCO over here. And I'm going to patch that in to this jack. And we should get, we got some vertical bars here. I know they're horizontal, but trust me, in video they're called vertical. And I can control the brightness of them with this attenuator now. Nice, classic. Ooh, there we go. We got a little sine wave going. Also, something that's just on board here, it doesn't need patching at all, is vertical sync pulse. So vertical and horizontal sync pulses are here and here. And if we patch that into our Eurorack oscillator, now we have vertically synced bars there. Yes, very nice. And also, some Eurorack audio oscillators will give you a little bit of horizontally synced frequencies too. So if I switch this over here and sync to horizontal, we may get a little bit. Oh, no, this one's getting up there. Cool. But you can see it's getting a little wonky and distorting and stuff. This is not fast enough to get up into that territory, but it gives it to you. We could also even take the vertical sync out, and I'll sync another oscillator with vertical, and then I'll use that to frequency modulate. Now I got another oscillator that's vertically synced, and then yeah, good. Ooh, nice. Now we got the old frequency modulation with 2 synced oscillators. And one of the benefits of this now that we have these knobs over here is we can easily change the colors. Like if I bring in the green background or bring in the blue, now we're not red anymore, we're purple. Yeah, neat. And some of this, I could, let's piggyback this red over onto the green, and we can start patching in here a little bit. Whoops. There. Oh, you know what? That's not going to work like that. It has to go like this. Let's go like this. We'll take the red out here, and we'll send that also into green. Yeah, now we got yellow. Cool. Whee! Yeah. And this is something that we couldn't do easily on the old version either. So, by itself, this thing could be a nice little addition to a Eurorack synth, or even just sending audio in here. You get some like flickering horizontal bars, or vertical bars, I'm sorry. So now let's bring in the chav and see how it can play with the chav, because again, this thing was meant to replace this in a DIY video synthesizer. So I'm going to unplug these. And unplug these, and you know what? Before I even do any of that, let me show you what something else might look like. Like, one of the nice things about having the Amiga here is it can be programmed to do other things. I can easily hook up a programmer here, one of these, $15 jobbies from SparkFun, and then that can connect onto the back of here, and then I can connect it to the computer and load different programs in here on the fly if I wanted to. And also do things like change the pulse width of the sync pulses or mess with the sync. And you may have noticed, all you, old school chav people, the sync was really stable. It's because I've messed with the sync pulses a little bit and dialed them in so they're, things are a little bit more stable. Your mileage may vary though. All these things, like this is not built correctly. I repeat, this is not built correctly. None of this stuff is really, built to spec the way it should be. But VGA monitors are very, very tolerant of signals that are outside the spec. So you can get away with some weird stuff. And, some monitors works perfectly, no problem. Some monitors, you got to monkey with it a little bit. These things, if you hate computers, you may want to stick with one of these. But if you are at all interested in messing around with code under the hood, even for someone like me that hates code, this is definitely more powerful. I'm going to, for someone that doesn't have a programmer, show you what you could do. Unplug this and then pop the chip out of here. Pop it out. Come on out, buddy. Let's go. Goodbye. And let's say I programmed this on the computer. Actually, I did we don't have to say it. I did it. Program this on the computer. We can pop this chip out. This is how you would program it initially. And then let's put this in here. Switch the chips. And then plug it back in. And we'll look at something else it could do. An alternative. Turn on. There it is. So, this is just messing around with the patterns a little bit, changing a number here, a number there, and we've got a totally different background pattern. Lots of different things could be customized. It could be color bars, it could be, there are a lot of, you could get creative with it. I can also show you what these buttons do now, too. These are some buttons that Tata had in stock, so I just decided to use them because I thought they were funny, but they're actually kind of nice. These, for red, green, and blue on the attenuators, change the behavior of these pots from attenuators into kind of a rudimentary filter, simple filter. So let's see what that does. Here's the green one. Watch what happens to the green lines. we get like this soft edge now, and that can be changed. We got like a simple filter in there, and there's green too, and here's the blue. And the way this is designed is these channels are all connected through these patch points, and they're jumped together. We got like Arduino out going to filter in, filter out going to VGA in. And these jumpers can just be taken off, and then anything could be patched to anything. So, you know, we could take the Arduino out completely and just use the filter to process other stuff, or connect the Arduino directly to the VGA in and then use the filter independently. You know, whatever, however you want to do it. And I'm going to show you some neat stuff that can be done with that right now. So here's the new chav. This is the revised chav board, and it's pretty similar to the old one at first glance. It still has the footprints here, the screw holes there, and these jack footprints and the power, and even this, we got a little rectifier diode spot if you wanted to use it, so that it can be built with one of these. It still can, you know, if you wanted to stick with it, you can, no problem. That will work. It can be wired up, you know, everything's labeled right there, just like it used to be. However, there are also headers on here. There are headers here and another row here. And because of that, we can, let's unplug this for a second just for fun, right? Plug it right into here and then fire it back up. And now we have a VGA4EVA powered chav, okay? We got all of the jacks that connect to these header pins here, and they can be assignable. They could be red, green, and blue, in or out, or anything else you could patch them to. Vertical and horizontal, still there. All of our filters and attenuators are still accessible, and all of these patch points are accessible too. So the old chav can be connected, all of these oscillators, the 6 oscillators, anything we could do with the chav before, we can do now. We can do same way, and in some ways better. The routing's a little bit easier. I've redone the routing for the entire board. It behaves a little bit better now. It looks the same, but it's completely redesigned. Fixed some of the labeling so it's a little bit easier to read, a little easier to understand, and updated a bunch of the footprints, the part footprints, so it's easier than ever to build. It has never been easier to build. So let's do a little patch with our setup here now. I have a jumper here that turns on this VCO, and that's horizontally synced. So let me patch that into red. Got VCO1 is patched into red. Hiya! And now we got a horizontally synced oscillator, and you can see it's getting a little bit of sync from that funny pattern that's in there, which is neat. That's like that falls under feature, not a bug, I would say. So I'm gonna disconnect all of these jumpers. So all of the Arduino is gonna go away. The influence of the Arduino is gonna go away, except for the vertical and horizontal sync. So let's take all those out. Oh, and look at that. The oscillators came back to normal. Very interesting, huh? See how that works? We got our regular old oscillators. Ooh, this is cool. I want to show you this. Here, this is, see this? How they're folding over each other a bit? And we get like this symmetry. This is one of the many benefits of building something poorly. This is not something that would happen in a synthesizer that's built correctly, but that allows us to do some neat things. I'm getting off track here, but trust me, it's worth it. That symmetry allows us to do some neat things like this kind of mirroring effect that we wouldn't be able to see if it was built correctly. Here, come on back, good. So I'm going to frequency modulate this, and you can see we'll get like this funny kind of, well, now it's not working so well. There we go. We got like this kind of symmetrical, there it is. We get like this symmetrical frequency modulation that we wouldn't see normally. And if I sync this vertically, we might even be able to, yeah, totally. So if the chav was built correctly, this, kind of oval thing wouldn't be there. So yeah, one of the many, it would look, more like, yeah, it would look more like this. But yeah, that's one of the, it's cool. It's one of the benefits of exploring this kind of territory where things aren't made properly. Anyway, I want to show you something else that's interesting that can be done with VGA4EVA that couldn't be done with the regular chav. And that is using those funky patterns that we had on the Arduino as a sync source. So I'm going to take the old Arduino out, red, could be any color, I'm just choosing red. And I'm going to use that to sync this VCO. So there it goes. And now we get like this crazy, weird looking oscillator. And that can be frequency modulated just like anything else. It could be used in any color, any combination of colors. Could be colorized, could be filtered. Here, let's frequency modulate that bad boy. LFO, boop, and boop. Yeah, it's just kind of cool. All right, and this is raw, sync. We're not looking at the Arduino at all right now. We're looking at the output from that oscillator. We could also do something like, now that this is all opened up, take the output from that VCO, and instead of plugging it directly into red, we could put it into the filter. So let's put it into the filter. Might as well use red because it's open, but again, that's sort of arbitrary. It could be anyone. And then I'm going to jump red to the filter output there. And yeah, here it is as an attenuator, right? Just turning down smoothly. And here it is as the filter. We're in filter mode now, and we get these kind of soft edges. Yeah, not the greatest example, but there's a lot of subtlety that is possible this way that, was not possible with just the regular attenuators. Yeah, so that's that. And again, just this setup, the chav by itself could be, built by itself with one of these guys. Which, altogether maybe like $25. The two of these together could be built for roughly around $50. Each of these PCBs I'm selling for $10, and then the parts will cost you maybe, like no more than $15 for all the parts each, probably. I think I covered it all. I think I covered everything. So a couple more things before I go. But wait, there's more. But wait. One is this. So say you built one of these old versions of the chav. You built one of these guys, and you have this thing all wired up like this, but you are interested in building VGA4EVA. Guess what? I have a solution for you. Get in touch with me and let me know, hey, I want to get VGA4EVA. And I have the old version that I already built, one of these older versions. I have these things for you, and I'll just give one to you. Price of shipping. You contact me, and I will send you one of these. And what this does is it has the same pattern for the wiring on the bottom. So you could, stick that on there with some resistor legs. It fits on there flat. And then you can put a header on there and then pop it right into VGA4EVA. It fits perfectly. In fact, this one has, I don't know if you can see it or not in there, but this one is on an adapter. Yeah, see, there's the little adapter board in there. And this was on top, but it can work on the bottom the same way. Not a problem. That's one thing. Another thing is, just for fun, I'm going to do a little giveaway. And the giveaway is, you can see on these boards, I have put a lot, maybe too much time into making all these fancy graphics. And in the graphics, oh, you know what? Let me cover one more thing quickly. There are wiring pads for all this stuff. Like, this thing is meant to be hacked. There are pads for the Arduino, two of the digital inputs, so you could route something else in there if you know how to code that. And there are also pads for each of the jacks, so they can be hardwired to things if you wanted to do that. Like if you just built this on its own, you might want to hardwire red, green, and blue to the red, green, and blue inputs, so you don't have to patch anything there. Also, there's a footprint for a button here, a 90-degree angle button. and a wiring pad and pads so that you could connect a button here and then code it to do something. There's not a lot of time left in the code, so I don't know how to do it, but if you could optimize it, that might be something you want to do. Anyway, there are a lot of like little hidden references in the graphics all over the place. I can see, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 different references here. And there's some on the other side too. Different little things here mentioned in the graphics all over the place. So I'm posting a quiz, and if you can get, I'm going to say, a reasonable score on the quiz, I will send you one of these little boards, just the PCB. You're going to have to fork out the 56 cents each for these jacks and the 67 cents for this pot. This is a little, Carl Klomp inspired Dirty Mixer PCB, and it is called Dirty Mixer equals $50, sort of in honor of all the jerks who have taken this design and then ripping people off by selling them for a lot of money. So, here it is. Here's how much all this stuff costs. I even figured in the labor costs for one board. It is absolutely nothing. And then you can see if you can beat my speed run time of 51 seconds assembling one of these things. So that's that. All right, infomercial over. I hope to hear from a bunch of you soon. I'm psyched. It's been a lot of work getting these things together. I was not playing around. Many versions of this thing. I tried this one. Nope, didn't like it. 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 Many versions. What is this? Revision G. This is revision G. It is a pleasure to work with, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, peace out.